Dearest Aunt Flo, how are you? I hope this letter finds you well and in good spirits. It has been 114 years since you left us, and I must write to you about your nurse nieces and nephews. It reminds me of a lesson you taught us, that everything you do in a patient's room after he has been put up for the night increases tenfold the risk of having a bad night. But if you rouse him up after he has fallen asleep, you do not risk. You secure him a bad night. You were right, Aunt Flo. I recently stumbled upon a case so bone-chilling that it makes the deepest and coldest ocean seem like a warm summer's day. It's the story of Heather Pressdee, a name that is now graffitied through the corridors of a local hospital in Pennsylvania, but not in the way you might expect. It's a tale of betrayal, of trust shattered, and the dark side of healing hands. Heather Pressde, on the surface, seemed like an exemplary nurse. Dedicated, compassionate, a true angel of mercy in the eyes of her colleagues and patients. She had that calming presence, a gentle touch, and a warm smile that could ease the worries of even the most anxious souls. No one suspected a thing. Born and raised in our quiet town, Heather was a familiar face to all. She was the girl next door, the friendly cashier at the grocery store, the volunteer at the local soup kitchen. Her life seemed like an open book, filled with acts of kindness and a dedication to helping others. Even her path to nursing seemed predestined, a natural progression for someone so caring and empathetic. Yet, beneath this shutter of normalcy, a darkness swelled, a darkness that no one could have anticipated. Heather's childhood was, by all accounts, ordinary. She grew up in a modest 2-story house on Elm Street. Her parents, though not wealthy, provided a loving and stable home. Her father, a quiet man with calloused hands, worked tirelessly at the local lumber mill. Her mother, known for her infectious laughter and delicious apple pies, was the heart of their small family. She instilled in Heather the importance of kindness and compassion. There were whispers, though, even then, murmurs of a darkness that lurked beneath Heather's seemingly placid surface. As Heather grew older, her interest in the darker shadows exploded into full gear. While other girls her age were preoccupied with boys and fashion magazines, Heather immersed herself in medical textbooks and anatomy charts. Her parents, oblivious to the darkness blooming in their daughter's heart, encouraged her intellectual pursuits. They saw her fascination with medicine as a noble calling, a sign of her caring nature. But there were other signs, subtle yet unsettling, that hinted at a deeper disturbance. A former classmate recalled an incident where Heather brought a dead bird to school, its tiny claws stiff and lifeless in her palm. Despite the whispers and unsettling incidents, Heather excelled in school. She was a model student, earning straight A's and the admiration of her teachers. Her dedication to her studies was unwavering, particularly when it came to biology and human anatomy. She seemed destined for a career in medicine, her passion for the subject both impressive and, in retrospect, deeply unsettling. After graduating high school with honors, Heather was accepted into a prestigious nursing program. Her parents, beaming with pride, held a celebratory dinner, the air thick with their hopes and dreams for their daughter. They had no idea that they were celebrating the start of a nightmare. Upon graduating from nursing school, Heather returned to her hometown. She was offered a position at Mercy Hospital, the very same hospital where she had been born. Her parents were overjoyed, their hearts swelling with pride as their daughter embarked on her career. Her colleagues at Mercy Hospital were immediately taken with her. She was a natural caregiver, her touch gentle, her demeanor calming, her smile disarming. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly. A patient, elderly and frail, admitted for a routine procedure, died unexpectedly in the night. Mr. Finch, a kindly old man who always had a twinkle in his eye and a kind word for the nurses, was gone. His passing, while a tragedy, wasn't entirely unexpected given his age and frail health. The attending physician attributed Mr. Finch's death to natural causes. His heart, weakened by time, had simply given out. Heather, the ever-efficient and compassionate nurse, had been assigned to Mr. Finch during his brief stay. She had cared for him with her usual diligence, her demeanor calm and reassuring. No one suspected a thing, not even when rumors of similar incidents began to surface. The whispers started slowly, like a gentle breeze rustling through the hospital corridors. Another patient, Mrs. Caldwell, a vibrant woman in her prime, suffered an unexplained cardiac arrest under Heather's watch. Then it was Mr. Davis, a retired school teacher, who slipped into a coma from which he would never wake. The string of deaths, while not alarmingly high, was unusual enough to raise eyebrows. The hospital staff couldn't shake off the feeling that something wasn't right. As more patients under Heather's care succumbed to inexplicable deaths, the whispers escalated into murmurs, then hushed conversations behind closed doors. The once unspoken fear that had haunted the hospital corridors began to take on a chilling form. The Angel of Death, they called her, a macabre moniker that spread like wildfire through the hospital grapevine. The pattern was undeniable. All the victims had been under Heather's care. All had died from sudden, unexplained cardiac events. The authorities were notified, and an investigation was launched. The once peaceful haven of Mercy Hospital transformed into a breeding ground for fear and suspicion. Patients, their trust shattered, clung desperately to life, terrified of the night shift when the angel of death was rumored to make her rounds. Families huddled together in anxious whispers, their eyes red-rimmed with worry. The hospital administration, facing mounting pressure from the community and a demoralized staff, struggled to maintain order. The investigation continued, but the authorities seemed no closer to uncovering the truth. A glimmer of hope arrived in the form of Detective Michael Harris, a seasoned investigator known for his sharp mind and unwavering determination. The weight of the case pressed down on the town as fear hung heavy in the air. The investigation seemed to be at a standstill, with the police baffled and the hospital staff feeling helpless. Detective Harris, a man of few words, had a reputation for cracking the toughest cases. His arrival in town brought a renewed sense of hope. Detective Harris wasted no time in immersing himself in the case. He meticulously reviewed every piece of evidence: medical records, staff schedules, witness statements. He spent hours observing the hospital staff, his gaze lingering on their faces, searching for any telltale sign. He was particularly drawn to Heather Pressde. On paper, she was a model nurse, her record impeccable. But something about her perfect facade struck a discordant note with the detective. Harris began to dig deeper into Heather's past. The more Detective Harris learned about Heather, the more convinced he became that she was the key to unlocking the mystery. Her fascination with death, her unsettling knowledge of medications, her cold, calculating demeanor, it all pointed to a dark secret. He needed concrete evidence, though, something tangible to link her to the murders. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source: a discarded syringe found in the hospital garbage. The syringe contained traces of potassium chloride, a drug that could stop the heart instantly. Further investigation revealed that the syringe had been used during Heather's shift. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, each one a testament to Detective Harris's meticulous investigation. He discovered that Heather had been secretly manipulating patient records, altering dosages, and covering her tracks. He uncovered a hidden notebook filled with Heather's chilling confessions. She had documented each of her crimes in detail, her words cold and detached. The notebook was the smoking gun Detective Harris needed. Heather Pressde, the compassionate caregiver, was nothing more than a cold-blooded killer. Her crimes, a betrayal of trust so profound that it shook the very foundations of the community. Heather Pressde was arrested and charged with multiple counts of murder and attempted murder. During the trial, prosecutors argued that Pressde's actions were premeditated and that she abused her position of trust to carry out these killings. The evidence presented included testimony from colleagues, medical records, and forensic analysis of the medications used. The arrest was swift and quiet, a stark contrast to the fear and chaos that had gripped the town for months. Heather, her composure finally broken, offered no resistance as the officers led her away from the hospital that had been her hunting ground for so long. Her eyes, once filled with feigned compassion, were now cold and empty, reflecting the darkness that had consumed her soul. News of her arrest spread through the town like wildfire, a collective sigh of relief sweeping through the streets. But the scars she left behind, the pain and the loss, would forever be etched in the hearts of those whose lives she had touched. The trial was a media frenzy, the courtroom packed with families seeking justice for their loved ones, with members of the community struggling to comprehend the darkness that had invaded their lives. Heather, her face pale and drawn, sat impassively as the evidence against her was presented, her silence speaking volumes. The verdict, when it came, was swift and decisive, guilty on all counts. As the judge read out the sentence, a collective gasp filled the courtroom, a mixture of relief and sorrow washing over the faces of those present. Justice, it seemed, had been served. The exact motive behind Pressdee's actions remains unclear, but it is believed that she might have sought the attention and admiration that often follows when a healthcare professional is involved in emergency situations. This phenomenon, known as Munchausen syndrome by proxy in medical caregivers, involves creating or exacerbating medical conditions in patients to gain sympathy or recognition. The trial of Heather Pressde was a spectacle, a media circus that descended upon the quiet town, shattering its tranquility and exposing its deepest fears. The courtroom became a battleground of emotions, a stage where grief and anger collided with disbelief and a yearning for answers. The prosecution, armed with a mountain of evidence and the chilling confessions from Heather's diary, presented a compelling case, portraying her as a cold, calculating killer who had preyed on the vulnerable with chilling precision. Pressdee was convicted of multiple counts of murder and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Her conviction brought a sense of justice for the families of the victims and highlighted significant lapses in oversight within the healthcare system. The town, once a haven of unity and shared values, found itself bitterly divided. Some, fueled by anger and a thirst for retribution, demanded the harshest punishment, their voices echoing through the streets, their placards demanding justice for the victims. Others, clinging to the memory of the kind, compassionate nurse they thought they knew, struggled to reconcile the image of the smiling caregiver with the cold, calculating killer portrayed in the courtroom. For some, the sentence brought a sense of closure, a bittersweet victory in the face of unimaginable loss. Justice, they believed, had been served. The woman who had brought so much pain and suffering to their community would spend the rest of her days behind bars, her crimes forever etched in the annals of their town's history. Others, however, found little solace in the verdict. Their grief, still raw and consuming, could not be assuaged by the pronouncements of the court. They had lost loved ones, their lives irrevocably shattered by Heather's actions. No sentence, however harsh, could bring back their mothers, their fathers, their friends, their neighbors. The wounds ran too deep, the scars too profound to ever truly heal. The trial may have ended, but the shadow of Heather Pressdee's crimes continued to loom over the town. Mercy Hospital, once a symbol of healing and hope, stood as a reminder of the darkness that had invaded their lives. The community, once a tapestry of interconnected lives, now seemed fractured. The threads of their shared history frayed by suspicion and doubt. Neighbors who had once greeted each other with warm smiles and friendly waves now passed each other in silence, their eyes averted, their hearts heavy with unspoken questions. The fear, though abated, lingered, a persistent undercurrent in their daily lives. Patients, once eager to seek treatment at Mercy Hospital, now traveled to neighboring towns. Their trust shattered, their hearts filled with a mixture of apprehension and distrust. The hospital staff, their spirits broken by the ordeal, struggled to cope with the aftermath. Their once noble profession now tainted by the actions of one of their own. Why had Heather Pressde, a woman who had dedicated her life to caring for others, chosen to betray her oath, to become an instrument of death and despair? Some sought answers in her past, poring over the details of her childhood, searching for any hint of trauma, any sign of the darkness that had led her down this path. They scrutinized her relationships, her interactions with family and friends, desperate to uncover the root of her evil. But the answers remained elusive, hidden in the labyrinth of Heather's mind, a puzzle that might never be fully solved. Others found solace in their faith, clinging to the belief that even in the darkest of times, there was a higher purpose, a divine plan that transcended human understanding. They sought comfort in prayer, in the rituals of their religion, finding strength in their shared belief that even in the face of unspeakable evil, hope and love would ultimately prevail. Dearest Aunt Flo, as I sit here penning this letter, the weight of Heather's crimes presses down on me. It's a reminder that the line between good and evil is often blurred, that darkness can lurk in the most unexpected places, even in the hearts of those we trust most. Why, Aunt Flo? Why did Heather choose this path? We may never truly know the answers, Aunt Flo. Some mysteries are simply too profound, too deeply rooted in the twisted recesses of the human psyche to ever fully unravel. Let us be vigilant, Aunt Flo, ever watchful for signs of darkness, ever ready to offer a helping hand to those in need, to be a source of light in a world that can sometimes feel overwhelmingly dark. Until I write again, Aunt Flo, your niece Penny. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more in the series of Killer Nurses.